there's been some more debate this week about whether the Big Ten is actually the best conference in college football. Guys like Shannon Sharp say, well, the SEC's been dominant for the last 20 years. The Big Ten needs to do more. Guys like other people like me and other pundits out there say, well, the Big Ten's the best. We got the national champion and many other reasons, by the way. SEC honks are still hanging on to the glory days of yesteryear. And the Big 12 and the ACC, they're just wannabes at this point, frankly. To make the case that the Big Ten is the best is pretty easy, actually. First of all, as of Monday, the Big Ten is home to the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. That's one. And because of Michigan in 2023, the Big Ten is home to back-to-back national champions. That's two. We can keep on going. If you need further reminding, the Big Ten also sent more teams, 4, than anybody else in the newly expanded college football playoffs than anybody else. I would argue for months, going back to last summer, spring, during the season, I'm constantly arguing with people, whether it's on my daily radio show, this daily podcast, Locked On Big Ten. I'll talk about this, how the new college football playoff format was going to look with the 12 teams. And by and large, we agreed that the Big Ten and the SEC would get a total of 7 of the 12 spots. That's what, and Notre Dame would get another one, and then everybody else fight for the rest. The standing argument was which conference would get 4 teams in and which would get 3. I was trying to be open-minded about it. Now, I talked about it here on this podcast, too, all summer. Whether the Big Ten would get 3 or whether it would get 4, or how things would play out. But SEC fan, they wouldn't hear any of it. None of it. They just put their head in the sand. No. The SEC is getting 4 teams. The Big Ten can't get 4. The Big Ten will get 3 at best. I actually had people tell me that there should be, they would try to make an argument that 5 SEC teams should get in. Just ridiculous. It was very ridiculous. There's no arguing with these people. 5 for them and 2 for us. It's ridiculous. That slogan, it just means more. It's gone to their head. They're just more arrogant. But I think they had a little humble pie here recently. Some of them are quieting down. Not all of them, some of them. So the other thing was, as the season was going on, and this was a rude awakening, and they were a little delayed in realizing it. But as all the polls came out, first the AP Top 25, then the College Football Playoff Committee started putting their polls together. And each week, the Big Ten just tightened its grip on that top 5. They had a stranglehold on it, whether it was Oregon or Ohio State or Penn State. Don't forget, Indiana kept nipping at the top 10. Illinois flirting inside the top 25. And it kind of started to upset SEC fans. They thought, oh, this is ridiculous. There's bias. I don't know what they were talking about, but these are some of the things they said. Again, they continue to bury their head in the sand and not pay attention. There was some pretty darn good football going on in the northern Midwest and from coast to coast, wherever the Big Ten has its footprint these days. But it was kind of fun to watch, to be honest with you. And then their argument would be, well, the Big Ten, they got a lot of teams at the top of the rankings, but they're top heavy. They got a few good teams at the top, really good, but the rest of the conference is no good. The middle of the conference is weak. The bottom is super bad. Last time I checked, it was the good teams that win the championships. Oregon won a Big Ten championship. Ohio State won a national championship. It's the way it is. And along the way, by the way, the mid-tier Big Ten teams, they continuously crushed all the mighty SEC teams in the postseason. Did you take a look at what happened this past bowl season and in the playoffs? I mean, Ohio State was technically the 3rd place team in the Big Ten. Actually, you can make the argument they were 4th because Indiana, that's right, they were 4th, weren't they? Because Indiana and Penn State ended up tying for 2nd. Penn State won the tiebreaker, won to the conference championship. That's right. Ohio State was the 4th place team in the Big Ten this year. That's how good the Big Ten is. I'm making my point for myself right here live while I'm doing this. That's right. They were the 4th place team. And they destroyed the SEC's 3rd place team, Tennessee, in the playoffs. Actually, it was embarrassing to watch. Very embarrassing to watch. The USC, very down year. Take a lot of criticism this year with Lincoln Riley. They handled Texas A&M in their bowl game, SEC. Michigan actually beat Alabama twice in one calendar year. Go back to last January 1st in the Rose Bowl, part of the semifinals for the college football playoffs. And then 365 days later, they beat them again in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Twice. How about that? The first time, both teams were kind of at full strength. It was about as good as they can be. This past year, all right, down years, supposedly, Michigan still beat them. Brett Bielema's 10-win Fighting Illini squashed a red-hot South Carolina team. I say red-hot. That's what they say. Big Ten team beat them. The SEC's only win in the postseason against the Big Ten was Missouri, and they needed a last-second field goal to beat Iowa. That's it. Congrats, SEC fan. You got one. So no matter how far down you go in the standings, Big Ten teams are better than the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12. It's the best conference in college football. It's the Big Ten. You can't make an argument. Even the coaches of the Big Ten are better than those in the SEC. I mean, Nick Saban, he's a distant memory at this point. The SEC's left with Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart. I like those guys. They're good. They're good coaches. But the Big Ten's got Ryan Day and Dan Lanning, who's pretty smart. James Franklin, who hauls in double-digit win totals every single year. Curt Cignetti's new on the scene with an 11-win season at Indiana in his first year. Iowa's Kirk Ferentz is one win away from tying Woody Hayes. Do you realize that? He's one win away from tying Woody Hayes for the all-time Big Ten wins mark. Coaches like Greg Schiano will fight you tooth and nail for every yard. PJ Fleck finds a way to win at Minnesota. Matt Rule is a rising star at Nebraska. And he's got a wealth of NFL and college football experience. Luke Fickell has ties to Ohio State, trying to get things turned around at Wisconsin. Sharon Moore's undefeated. He's actually 2-0 against Ryan Day at Ohio State. I mean, I could go on. Coaches are great in the Big Ten. Plus, the Big Ten schools have huge student bodies, 50, 60, 70,000 kids. They all become a large alumni donating base later in life with good jobs. In yesterday's podcast here on Lockdown Big Ten, we took a look at the top schools in the country with name, image, and likeness and the collectives to draw from. Ohio State's right there at the top in the country with Texas. Oregon's up there with Nike money. Penn State, Indiana, Michigan, even Michigan State is in the mix among the best. Illinois is in there as well. They're among the richest in the country. So when Big Ten critics make the arguments and they run out of arguments, they run dry, then they go to page 2 of the playbook, which says, hey, let's complain about the Big Ten Conference's weak non-conference schedule. I do recall USC opening against LSU and closing out against Notre Dame. I think they made the national championship. That was a pretty good schedule. Michigan played Texas. Wisconsin manned up and played Alabama. Meanwhile, I could have just as easily pointed out how Georgia played Tennessee Tech and UMass in the same season. Alabama played Mercer and Western Kentucky. The SEC, they only play 8 conference games. I want to talk about how tough their conference is. They only play 8 games in their conference. Big Ten plays 9. And I just made the argument that the Big Ten's a tougher conference. Who's got the tougher schedule? Who really needs to be complaining about non-conference games? Can't do it. Bottom line, the Big Ten is in a great position right now. They're poised to remain on the top of the college football world because they're on top right now at a time where we have lightning fast changes going on in college football and in the landscape, and the conference members, they got a great head start on wrapping their heads and their dollars around this changing landscape. They're in a great spot. In fact, on tomorrow's Locked On Big Ten podcast, we're going to look at who has the best chance in the conference to be the front runner for the three-peat Big Ten national champion, whether it be Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon or Penn State. We're going to look into that. Tomorrow's podcast. Mark your calendars for that. We'll love your comments. In the meantime, hit us up with the comments here on YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way, you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And as a favor, we always ask if you wouldn't mind also share, like, and following follow this podcast as well. Really helps us out. We really appreciate it. Hey, don't forget to check out our website as well, talkbig10.com. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. Plus, we got links for merchandise from your favorite Big Ten schools right there at your fingertips for your convenience. All right, coming up, we still have a lot to do here. If you're still not convinced that the Big Ten is the best, I have more information. We're just going to run you over with it today. Plus, there is a huge 2027 quarterback football recruit circling some Big Ten teams already. I can't believe we're talking about 2027. Also have some portal news from Penn State, some coaching news at Minnesota. We got a lot going on. Plus, we'll look into the weekend with the Big Ten Classics. It's all on the way right here on Locked On Big Ten. Talkspace. You got to talk to somebody. Need some therapy. Talkspace. Therapy. Game changer here. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into your busy schedule can be a challenge, but that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider. It makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours. And it's convenient, and you can have sessions from the comfort of your own home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege and enter the promo code SPACE80. SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege and enter that promo code SPACE80 and get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege, promo code SPACE80.